All right. What's going on, everybody? It's Josh, aka the Moses Muscle, and I'm coming at you with a solo Next Up podcast. Now, first and foremost, let's get some things out of the way. Shout out to my affiliate links, my sponsors, all of them. Natural Body, absolutely shout out. Right now, I'm going to try and post this today. So it is 4 times points in store for Labor Day. So make sure that you go in, you tell Moses sent you, and we'll take care of you. Um, for those who are not in New York, the word Moses means something. Go on the website. Uh, Other than that, lift fucking heavy, my boy Joe. Shout out, use code Moses there too. Great clothes, just absolutely love it. And then last thing to announce is going to be I am dropping my own little t-shirt. It'll be on a link in my Instagram ASAP. But this is the front. The back says "What's your why" with the logo on it. So pretty cool. Check it out. Support me, support the channel, support everything that we got going on here. Support Colin. So now we are into this. We are going to do a solo Q&A episode. So I got some questions loaded up on my phone, and we will see where this goes. So first question, and I kind of broke these down into like nutrition, training, PEDs, stuff like that. So first one on nutrition, is there such thing as a perfect macro split, or is it all about timing and psychology? So I don't believe that there is a perfect macro split for like a weekly diet. So it's not like you're going to have something that's just set. I do believe that there is a reason for training day, non-training day, high day, low day, medium day, um, super saturation, all that type of stuff. Realistically, the goal is always going to be to fuel training performance and recovery. So if you are not somebody who does a lot on a rest day, you definitely don't need as much food. But if you absolutely murder yourself on a leg day, you might need more food. So there is definitely no such thing as a perfect macro split, but there is a perfect macro setup for a person. So it really comes down to the training capacity. Are you able to take it there? If you are, you're going to burn more calories during your training session. If you can't really take it there, you might burn 150 to 200 calories. You don't need that difference, even though recovery might be hindered by having less. So take it with a grain of salt. It's not exact science when it comes to certain things like that, but I do think that there is a lot of merit to having a training day, rest day, or high, medium, low, or however you specifically split it. Even a 5 to 2. So 5 days of like moderate days in a row, and then 2 low days on the weekend to kind of have some freedom. Or opposite, you could have 5 low days in a row and then 2 moderate days on the weekend to allow for yourself to have some cheat meals. There's a lot of different options. There's no such thing as like a perfect setup. It's what works for the person who is set up for. All right. Next, let's go with a PED question. If I had to build a starter stack for someone serious but not reckless, what would it look like? We talk a lot about this on the One More Rep podcast, so I'm going to keep this kind of brief, but test is best. So if you are just beginning, I firmly believe you can get away with 300 to probably about 500 milligrams of test, obviously basing off of your blood work, seeing what you naturally produce. You can get a lot from a little here, and you can always go up. But once you're up there, going back down, you might not yield the same results. So I would say start 3 to 500 on the test. Growth, I would introduce growth at a lower number, so anywhere from like 3 to 4 IUs. 2 IUs is kind of like a replacement dose for most people. Then from there, realistically, you could add some DHTs in there, so something like a Masteron. I've said publicly I'm a fan of EQ, Deca Nandrolones. So it really depends on what phase they're in. But if they're in like a cutting phase, definitely something like a just test and mass cycle would be a good idea. You could probably throw Proviron in there. You could throw, your ancillaries, Tomasart and Metformin and things like that. But realistically, like just starting with tests and kind of assessing need from there as a starter dash beginner kind of cycle. Another PED question. What role should PEDs or peptides actually play in a transformation, and where do most people go wrong with them? So when it comes to the Sorry, there's somebody taking a picture of my house right now. Yeah, you can just leave it right there. Um, so bodybuilding is an interesting kind of sport because there's no regulations. Unless you're doing a natural federation or you're doing a natural show, you're allowed to take whatever you want. If you want to do a line of coke before going on stage, no one's gonna stop you. As long as obviously you're not like in public, you're doing it quietly. So PEDs and peptides are going to play a role no matter what. Now, should they be the main thing driving the transformation? No. The work should be, the diet should be, the hard, the hard things should be. But they definitely help, and they can definitely make a big enough difference to say that without them, the transformation wouldn't occur. So if you take somebody like, let's say, like a big Rami, and you want to transform him from a bulk to a cut, and he's not on test, and that food gets pretty low, he's already over the genetic capacity to hold muscle tissue. So that muscle is going to start to come off. So they definitely play a role, especially if somebody's already an experienced user. Things nowadays, like, we have Retta, we have SLU, we have AOD, we have the GH secretagogues, we have all these little, either small molecules or peptides that are just they are making significant changes, but they're not making changes for the people who are 75% or 80% in. They're making changes for the people who are 95% plus in. You are locked in, and then you add one of these things in, they're going to make a difference. If you're 80%, you add in SLU, yeah, you might see a little bit of a difference, but like if you just tightened up the that 20%, you would see a lot more. So keeping that in mind is always a good option. Let's get into nutrition again. So, how much do healthy swaps like protein cereal and nice cream and like Halo Tops and stuff like that actually help or hurt long-term adherence? I think they hurt long-term adherence a lot because when you are stimulating that sweet tooth, but not actually giving like the body sugar, you're just going to crave more of it. This is something that I personally saw a lot when I was having like my Ninja Creamy and cereal every night last off season was like it didn't matter how much I ate of it, I always wanted more. And that was just because like the craving of the sugar definitely was there. But the Ninja Creamy protein I wanted like more of that. It was the fake ice cream, the fake sugars in there, the sucralose in there that I was craving more than the actual sugary cereal. Another thing is like if you're constantly trying to make macro hacks or changing things up, these protein brownies and stuff, you're going to be more likely to try to lean on those than you probably should be. Whole food is going to be the thing that really drives the adaptations that you want in a physique. So I would say that it's going to definitely hurt long-term adherence. And also, the simplest thing ever is if the more bland your food is, the more likely you're going to be to stick to plan. If you're constantly adding things to make your food taste better, when it's time to cut those out, you're going to look for something to cheat on your diet, or they could be hindering you. They could be messing with your digestion. They could be increase like it's a 10-calorie sauce for 30 milliliters, but you're adding 75 milliliters per meal. It's a lot of sauce first and foremost, but like you just added a lot of calories throughout the course of a day, upwards of 100 grams of or 100 calories, and that can over time start to slow a deficit down or increase your fat way too much. So, next question. What's my take on low carb before bed? Smart fat loss strategy or Instagram grow science? I think the person asked this did not see my Instagram post on it. I do think low carb before bed is a good idea. I think that realistically, digestion or food volume being as low as possible pre-bed is a great idea. When you eat food late at night, or you eat food in general, there is a mechanical process to digestion. Therefore, our body has to exert energy to digest that food. One of the common ways that we show exertion is going to be through an increased heart rate. So if your heart rate is higher because you just ate a large meal before bed, that sleep is just not going to be as deep. So kind of pushing your calories to the front of the day is going to be a better option. Now, the only exception to this would be if you're somebody who trains at night and your last meal after you train is your last meal before bed, then I would say that you probably need some carbs. Or even if you're someone who trains first thing in the morning, I would say that you probably want some slower digesting carbs in there in your last meal because when you wake up first thing in the morning, if you're not somebody who wants to eat, there's kind of your glycogen being stored into fueling that workout. But low carb before bed, you're going to have lower fasted blood glucose. That means you're going to burn more fat if you wake up and do cardio, or even if you just wake up and get some movement in. So I definitely, I definitely stand on the low carb before bed. We got some mindset questions. Why do so many people wait until they feel ready to start, and how do you kill that excuse for good? This is one of my favorites. So feel good to start. I love that. So a common one that I'll get is somebody walks into the gym and they go, "Oh yeah, I was looking for a personal trainer, but I want to lose 20 pounds first." Or, "Hey, I'm looking to do online coaching, but I want to lose 10 pounds first." When you were taking your driver's test, did you wait until after you failed the test to go and do driver's ed? Or did you do the driver's ed first to make sure that you would pass the test? There is a big difference between having an idea of what you're supposed to do and having a plan of what you're supposed to do. If you could turn around and you could say, I can cut out 6 weeks of just kind of mudding through the water by hiring a coach, how much is that 6 weeks of time worth to you? Because personally, that 6 weeks makes a huge difference. If it does make that big of a difference to you, then maybe you don't need the coach. But I think that there's a lot of merit to learning your body through the process of somebody else doing the structure for you. Another example would be personally over the course of this year or the course of the last 2 years when it comes to contest prep, I need two peaks. The reason is the first peak, I look good, but I'm not always right there. My body needs to almost peak, deplete, and then peak again. And that's where my best looks have been. So I did not learn that by myself. I learned that through going through a coach, going through the shows, doing the two shows back to back, seeing that I looked better after the second show. And then it's like, all right, well, now I know that I should probably peak a couple weeks before the actual show that I have to do. Something simple like that. What's my take on using the gym as a weapon against stress, trauma, and insecurity, not just a place to lift weights? If you know me, you've listened to this podcast enough, you will understand that I take the gym extremely personally. That is the place where I personally go to fight demons. That is the place that keeps my head on straight. That is the place that drove me out of depression, alcoholism, suicidal thoughts. So I absolutely believe that if you have something going on and you need an outlet, the gym is probably your best bet because otherwise, I don't know where I'd be right now. I think there's a lot of people out there who, their mental health is tied to their gym stuff, how they look, how they perform. And I don't think I think that's where it loses its merit. I think your mental health should be bolstered by your ability to push yourself and say, hey, I'm strong enough to do this, and I'm getting stronger every time. The beautiful thing about the gym is that every single time that you fail, you're going to be better the next time you come in. And that's why failure is always accepted at the gym. So that's my kind of 2 cents on that topic. It's extremely personal to me. So I do think that you should use it as a weapon. But once it starts to mentally or affect your mental health in a negative way, ditch it. All right. What does it mean to earn it in the gym and in life? And why do most people avoid that conversation? To earn it is to work for it. When you get into the gym, this is a philosophy I really love. So when you get into the gym, if the gym were to close after one set, did you do enough to stimulate muscle tissue or burn the fat that you were looking to burn, even though we're not going to burn fat through training? But did you do enough? And That's not a question that like I from the outside can answer. That's only an internal question. Did you do enough to stimulate the result that you're looking for? If you didn't, you didn't earn it. And the same goes for life. If you're turning around and you really want something, you want the seven-figure house, you want this, 6-figure a month business, you want to turn around and just be able to afford the Ferrari or whatever it may be. Just thinking like monetarily here, you have to be willing to put in the work. Because I'm going to say it like this: if you were a trust fund baby, you probably aren't watching this. We probably don't relate to each other very well. So, I mean, I don't think most people relate to trust fund babies well, except for other trust fund babies. But like, you gotta go after it. There's a personality difference between the person who gets more joy out of finding a dollar versus earning a dollar. If I asked you right now, would you rather earn a singular dollar by selling something, doing something for it, or would you rather find a dollar? And your answer is find a dollar. You don't really want to work for it. You want to kind of hand it to you and just be like, all right, cool, I got it. Versus if you want to earn the dollar, it's like, yo, I'm willing to hustle. I'm willing to get after it. I'm willing to do the things that I need to do. So definitely something to consider. Now, next question, high rep versus low rep. Oh, that was a good question. All right, so high rep versus low rep. This one's interesting because it depends. I think that for smaller muscle groups or isolation movements, high rep is king. So something like a single leg curl, single leg extension, a bicep curl, tricep extension, high rep is king. You want to kind of fill that muscle group with as much blood and nutrients as possible and get a nasty pump off it. I definitely think that that's true. Obviously, still going to failure. So, like, if you take the tricep extension and you do a 35 rep set, but that last rep is hard as hell, you're still stimulating muscle tissue. Um, but if you do like a 6 rep tricep extension, how much of that was like front delt and you were like pressing into it, or like your chest got involved, or you use momentum. So I don't think that there's a lot of merit to like even like a 6 rep bicep curl. Like, how much are you swinging that thing at the end? I definitely think those need to be higher rep, but something like a hack squat, a dumbbell flat bench, a row, definitely low rep. Those are highly fatiguing movements. You put a lot of weight on the bar, you're still going to get a lot of fatigue, but you will be able to recover a little bit faster versus taking a hack squat to 25 reps. So high rep versus low rep, it depends on the movement. Compound movements, I would say keep them lower rep, unless there's something you really struggle with. If you struggle with like an overhead shoulder press, take that for a couple more reps just so that you can continue to grease that groove and understand the movement. If you got it like that, you're good at shoulder pressing, go lower rep. Like, you're going to get your volume through your lateral raises. You're going to get your volume through other things. So take that approach. And I think that's the best way, in my personal opinion, to train. It's not high rep, low rep, but it's a mix of the two. And then you could also go high volume, low volume in terms of your sets. Compound movements, I would say keep your sets lower. Um, and then the isolation movements do like 3 to 4 sets. So that is what I would say right now. Now let's see if I got another question. Why do 95% of people never actually train a muscle hard enough to grow it? And how do you know if you're taking a set to failure? People like to avoid hard things. That's a really easy answer. Um, it's easier to avoid something hard than it is to go through it. My question to people is normally like after a set, if they, quit on the set, when they've relaxed a little bit, calm back down, and they're almost ready for the next one, I like to ask the question like, if you had done one more, how bad would that have been? And because they've calmed down and they realize they're like, I probably could have gotten it. Like, it's not that bad. Versus in the moment, it feels like someone's going to stab you in the leg. So it's almost gritting your teeth and bearing it and being like, all right, I could do this next one because I know it's not going to be that bad. I'm already in pain. I might as well finish the job. And then taking a set truly to failure, that's kind of a learned thing. I think you almost need a spot for that or somebody who's just willing to die on the cross for it. So, get with the biggest guy at the gym, the guy who trains the hardest, and just say, like, hey, I want to join you for a set. Like, I want to do one set. I'll tell you this, like, I'm not the most approachable person when it comes to training. I like to train really hard and just kind of stay to myself. But if somebody asks me, like, hey, yo, could I work in? I'm like, would you be willing to put me through a set? Absolutely, every time, because when someone else is training like that, someone else is giving it their all, you almost feel like a new source of energy. Like, I don't care if you're doing 300 pounds and the guy who turned around and asked to jump in and doing 150 and he gets 20 reps, you're 300 pounds. You should go for the 20 reps. Why would you want to lose to him? That's how I view it. It becomes a competition, a friendly competition, um, but it does become a competition. Hey, on my logbook, it said I could only do 13, and I'm going to shoot for 14 today. Fuck that. The guy next to me just did 15. I'm going for 16 because not only do I want to beat him in weight, I want to beat him in reps. Why do I want to beat him in reps? Because my ego's in the way. Why is my ego in the way? Because it just is. It just is. And I'm okay with that. And I'm ready to turn around and take that front. I'm ready to say, like, I lost that one. But in my head, why would I go into something only shooting for 13 or 14 when you just got 15? You endured more pain than me. Technically, if you're training and you feel the same thing I do, you were able to push it a little more. Absolutely not. I'm not losing like that. I'm not going outside. So friendly competition's great. I think you should push it. I think you should turn around and have somebody else sitting there and saying, like, yeah, I want to work in with him. I want to do one rep more, or I want to turn around and train hard with somebody. But like, it's internal. That competition's definitely internal. You have to say, like, I'm not losing to this person, therefore I'm going to take this as far as I humanly can because I know last time I only got this many. But I'm not losing. Fuck that. So taking a set to failure truly does involve either someone teaching you how to train hard or you just accepting the fact that like this is gonna hurt like hell and I'm gonna just go until I can't because once I'm done, I'm done. And in 3 minutes I'll feel a lot better. So let's see if we got one last one. I like this one because it's kind of a mindset question. How intensity builds confidence uh outside of the gym. Intensity can be described in a lot of ways, but how I like to describe it is just being able to take it there and just being able to go to hell and say like caution to the wind. I'm getting this thing with everything I got, and I'm going until I can't do it anymore. Um, if you make the gym the hardest part of your day, and how I like to say is like when you leave the gym feeling accomplished because you trained that hard, nobody can take that from you. That's almost like a badge of honor that you wear for the rest of the week, or the rest of the day. If it's legs, it's the rest of the week, but you wear that for the rest of the day. Nobody can. It gives you this "you can't fuck with me" energy. So take that how you want to take it. Um, that's how I look at it, is that I get confidence from the gym by turning around and knowing that not everyone around me could probably tolerate what I just did. And I'm gonna come back and do it again tomorrow, or do it again the next day, or do it again the next week. Wherever it kind of lays out on that schedule, I'm gonna give it my all. So that is all I got for you guys today. Like, comment, share, subscribe. If you liked this style of video, definitely let me know. Not saying that I'd ever kick Colin off the podcast, but like I could do these on my own time. Um, I could even do them at the gym. So if you have questions, definitely leave them down below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun shit. Have a great day. Also, again, check the Shopify store if you want one. Dope shirts. Great, great fits.